Welcome, everybody, to the February 8th, 2022 meeting of the Carpinteria Unified School District. We'll begin this evening's meeting with our roll call. Sally?
Here.
Jamie?
Here.
Jamie?
Here?
And I'm here.
Great, thank you. Everybody, please rise for the flag salute. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item C2 of our agenda is our closed session report. The board took action during closed session to approve in a 4-0 vote the legal settlement for student case number 20211-20904. Moving on to C3 is the approval of minutes of the January 25th, 2022 school board meeting. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item C4 is approval of agenda and consent agenda for tonight's meeting. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
And Sally, this is a roll call?
Aaron?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
And I'm aye.
Moving right along, we have,
I'm so sorry. We do have a public comment on one of the consent agenda items on D8.
D8? Okay.
Mr. Hochner, please come to the stand. Please turn the microphone on.
That push? Great. Already, item D8, correct? Yes, thank you. Alrighty, you tell me when to begin, Ms. Thomas. When I may begin, thank you. Yes, thank you. Alrighty, D8 has to do with software purchase for screen monitoring and classroom management software. In regard to this somewhat shiny, impulsive administrative decision that was inadequately vetted with the community, item D8 provides an example of yet another version of this kind of impulsivity. This issue was brought to the union by district parents, feeling that they are not being heard by either the school board or upper management. Recently, the CUSD provided new Chromebooks, laptop computers to students across the system. During instructional hours, the CUSD has acted to ensure that students' access and web activity can be monitored by directly allowing staff, faculty, and administration to observe the student's desktop in real time during instructional hours. This is what this software package you're considering has to do with. It seems that the CUSD acknowledges that the concern of students having unsupervised access to the internet while at school. And it begs the question, what has the district done to support families that lack either the technical, physical, or financial ability to ensure the same level of monitoring during after-school hours and on weekends? I'm sure you are all well aware of the blog that went across multiple grade levels due to the lack of supervision that the district provided families. It seems an appropriate and a prudent step that the CUSD provide families a contract that allows them to confirm or deny whether they want such a device at home, a laptop computer. Families that do not want or cannot provide sufficient monitoring may then be confident that the CUSD hasn't set them up by providing their children powerful technologies that these families would otherwise not have brought into their homes. Thank you.
Yep. right, we'll move on to item E1. This is a presentation in regards to the transition from at-large elections to trustee area elections for the Carpinteria Unified School District Governing Board. We do have a presentation this evening on this item.
Good evening. Good to be with you again. I'm Daniel Phillips from National Demographics Corporation, and I'm here to give an overview on the redistricting process and where we are at this point. So if you could pull up my presentation, that would be great. Thank you. And you can move to the second slide, please. Oh, thank you. Yes. Okay. So here's where we are in the process of transitioning to by trustee area elections. You have up to this point you have been elected at large, and now you are moving to the trustee area election system, whereby each of you has to live in a certain area, and you can only be voted on by residents of that particular area in which you live. And so the state actually outlines a series of public hearings that are required for going through this process. And we held the first two of those hearings last month. And those hearings by law have to take place before any draft maps are presented. So we had those, and now we are in the next stage of the process where we are actually considering draft maps. Those draft maps were posted 1 week ago on February 1st, according to the law, where they had to be posted for review for a full week in advance. So tonight is the first of the two post-draft hearings, and then we will have a second one in 2 weeks on the 23rd. And these meetings are designed to discuss and, if necessary, revise the draft plans, as well as to discuss the sequence of elections. Finally, on February 23rd, which would be the same meeting in which the final public hearing is held, there will be a map adoption hearing in which you will formally adopt one map to use for your elections going forward. And that map will have to be approved by the county committee on school board organization, but assuming that is approved, then that map will be implemented in time for the November elections. When drawing trustee areas, it's good to be mindful of several rules and goals for that process. The rules are those that come from federal law. The first of which is that the trustee areas had to be equal in population. And this includes all people, including children and non-citizens. There has to be equal population between the areas. It doesn't have to be exactly equal, but it should be as fairly equal as you can get. And then you had to be mindful of the Federal Voting Rights Act by not doing anything that would dilute the voting influence of a protected class group of people, usually a racial or ethnic minority group. But on the flip side, not practice what is called racial gerrymandering, where you make race or ethnicity the only or main consideration. On the right-hand side, you'll see several traditional principles that are optional, not required, but that are often done by school districts, such as respecting communities of interest, drawing trustee areas that are compact, drawing trustee areas that are contiguous, just one piece each, drawing areas that follow visible boundaries, either natural or man-made, respecting voters' choices or continuity in office, and the idea there would be to give each incumbent trustee the opportunity to run for re-election in their own area, so that it's up to the voters to decide whether each of you has earned re-election, rather than force one of you to have to leave the board because of the way the lines are drawn. And you can also account for any planned future growth, although I'm not aware of any significant growth that would be present in this district. So that leads us to the plans that are in front of you tonight. They are labeled NDC Plan 201, 202, and 203. And you'll see that there is a map for each plan, and you have a numbering scheme that goes generally from west to east, starting with 1 in the west, going to 5 in the southeast. And you have consistent coloring for each of the plans. So 1 is pink, 2 is blue, 3 is green, 4 is purple, and 5 is orange. Now, there is also a posted election sequence at the bottom left corner of each map. This is a proposal that we offer that would allow each incumbent to have the opportunity to run for re-election and make it so that the area in which they live will be up for election when their current term expires. Now, at the top right corner, you will see that there are a couple of key statistics for each plan. The first of which is total population deviation, and that is the difference between the most populated district or trustee area and the least populated trustee area. And the idea there is for that number to be less than 10%. Any number less than 10% is considered equal population, as the courts interpret it. So all of the plans in front of you tonight are under 10%. So this first plan is just under 6%. The other key statistic you'll see is focusing on trustee area 3, which is the green area. And the reason we focus on that is because that is the area in which the Latino community is concentrated. And so what we give there is the percentage of the citizen voting age population, CVAP, that is Latino or Latina. And for Plan 201, that percentage is 42%. We don't give that percentage for the other trustee areas because it is much lower. So really the area in which the Latino community is large enough to exert any electoral influence of significance would be in that trustee area 3. So this is what 201 looks like. Actually, for all 3 plans, area 1 is identical. Area 1 is Summerland and Toro Canyon and the very western edge of Carpinteria. I believe it's a mobile home park right at the edge of the city. And so if you go through all 3 plans, area 1 won't change. So what does differ between the plans is the configuration within the city of Carpinteria itself, specifically the shape of area 3 and the effect that that shape has on the percentage of the citizen voting age population that is Latino. So like I said, under Plan 201, you have a 42%. With Plan 202, it gets up to 53%. So it's a majority of the citizen voting age population. And in order to achieve that, you take Area 3 and move it down closer to the railroad track. And actually, once I go through the static maps, I'm happy to go through the interactive review map in order to zoom in to give a clear picture of the difference between these plans. But with Plan 202, you have a total population deviation that is still about 6%. Finally, with Plan 203, you have a total population deviation that's about 5.5%, and here you get a percentage of the citizen voting age population that is Latino of 48% in Area 3. So with this Plan 203, Area 4, which is which is based in this area between the 101 and the 192. It actually goes all the way up into the mountains. And in plans 201 and 202, Area 2 is the one that takes in the mountains and all the areas above Highway 192. So I'm happy to take questions about the draft plans and to hear which plan you might prefer and members of the public might prefer, and to hear if you might have requested revisions for any of the preferred plans. But I'm also happy to show you the interactive review map and delve into the details specifically of Area 3, which may not be as clear when you look at the district-wide picture. So would you like me to do that?
That'd be great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would you mind clicking that link? Thank you. So when you open that link, you will see a series of instructions. You can close that instructions box. And then you will see a list of layers at the right-hand side. And currently there are 2 layers checked, the boundaries of the district itself and the boundaries of the towns and city. So we can probably remove the census places one. Could you please uncheck that box? Yes, thank you. And then if you go down, you'll see NDC Plan 201 and 202 and 203. You can check 201. And next, you can move to the top left corner of the screen, and should be a plus icon in order to zoom in. Yes, great. Click on that, please. And one more time. And maybe one more time. And then if you could click in the map and drag in order to center Area 3 in the middle of the screen, the green area. Perfect, thank you so much. So under Plan 201, this is what Area 3 looks like. It actually goes to this, it follows, is there a way to turn the lights off for a little bit so it's clearer, the labeling of the streets? Thank you. This is fine. Yeah, so this is Linden Avenue. And you can see Linden Avenue is the boundary of Area 3 here. And then this street, I believe, is 7th. Great. And so you can see that 7th is the one that eventually goes up and over the freeway when it turns into San Ynez. Yeah. And so you get kind of the northeastern chunk of, or northwestern chunk of downtown, along with some of the neighborhoods up on the other side of the freeway. So this is what Area 3 looks like under Plan 201. Could you please uncheck 201 and check 202? Thank you. So this is similar where Linden is still the boundary, but now you go all the way down to the railroad track here. And then you still have some neighborhoods up on the other side of the freeway, but there's more of an extension toward the west to get in a lot of the apartments that you'll find off of Carpentry Avenue between that and the freeway. And finally, could you please uncheck that and check 203? Thank you. So under this plan, you really only get a very small portion of Central Carpinteria. Most of the area is mostly, much of it is north of the freeway, and you get a lot of it in these neighborhoods up here, and it goes all the way over to these apartments over here right along the border of Area 1. So the thrust of this is that if you want a plan that has an Area 3 with more of downtown, then 201 would be the the choice there, but it's also good to be mindful of, as I mentioned, the Latino citizen voting age population statistics that I mentioned. Would any of you like to see any other portions of the map besides what we showed just now?
Anybody else?
Good. No.
I think that should be fine. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, so happy to take your questions, or if you want to wait until you members of the public have a chance to speak, I can wait on that too.
Okay. All right, great, thank you.
Are we gonna start with the public? or-
Yeah, let's start with the public. I am going to go ahead and open public hearing for this item. We have speakers, Monica?
Yes, we have Mr. Jay Hochner. Please come to the stand. No, go ahead.
Thank you again. Thomas, if you'll let me know when it's time to begin.
Start.
Thank you. Alrighty, well, it's a shame that Board Member Schaefer isn't present this evening as the school board's self-appointed contracting building expert. It has come to the attention of union leadership that while the school board discusses this issue of redistricting, select board members are exploring a method of drawing new district maps so as to ensure how they might personally not lose their seats or have to compete against each other for the same seat. Union leadership wants to remind the school board that although their primary motivation to follow the law on the topic of redistricting may be an effort to protect themselves or the CUSD from legal vulnerabilities and lawsuits, the primary intent of the state is to increase representation and diversity on K through 12 public school district boards across the state, Carpinteria included. We ask that you keep the state's objectives central to your discussions versus wielding your power to influence an outcome that simply serves to preserve your personal desire for power and influence. Thank you.
Any others, Monica?
No, that's it on this item.
Great, thank you. I'm going to close the open public hearing on that one. Board members, do you have any questions for our speaker? Or comments?
No, thank you.
All right. Perfect, great. Thank you for attending this evening. We'll go ahead and move on to item E3. We have no student representative report tonight, so we'll move on to E4, our superintendent report.
Thank you, Jamie. So tonight, I'd like to begin with appreciation, and I'd like to recognize Dr. Carla Curry, our special education director, and all the CUSD special education teachers and staff for serving 365 special education students with skill and loving care. In addition, this week is National School Counseling Week, and I'd like to recognize our CUSD school counselors, Darcy Campbell, Julie Bravo, and Marlo Stoops at the high school, Megan Genser-Kruk and Stephanie Stahl, Sherry Warner at the middle school, Bert Dannenberg at Aliso Summerlin, and Shanna Hargett and Patricia Humbles at Catalino and Family School. The next item is the 2021 CAST results. Following national trends, the California Department of Education reports limited progress in assessment scores for the 2020-21 school year when compared to the pre-pandemic results. Lower participation rates also make data comparisons invalid. In California, 49% of students met or exceeded English language arts standard, and only about a third, or 34%, succeeded in math. A widening achievement gap between student subgroups was also noted. It was predicted that the pandemic would have a drastic effect on student performance. I listed the CAP test results, and for our district, all students, we had 43.5%. mastering performance standards in English language arts, and for math, it was 27.4%, and both scores were lower than the state. In addition, we identified the different subgroups and compared them with the state, and some subgroups did better than the state, and some subgroups did worse. However, I do want to make it clear that we had only 70% to 78% of students participate in CASP, and it is considered valid when 95% of your students participate. And pre-pandemic, we typically have 97% of our students participate in the state assessments. The next item is the middle school spelling bee. Congratulations to CMS student Tayson Lee for winning first place, CMS student Madison Lee for winning second place, and CMS student Janali Abdulhai for winning third place in the 2022 spelling bee. The Masons provided generous prize money. First place was $350, second place $250, and third place $150. The CMS winners will compete at the Santa Barbara County Spelling Bee, and I'm confident there'll be winners there as well. Last Friday night, Congressman Carbajal presented a U.S. flag to our district to be flown in the new gym. The flag was flown atop the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. on November 17th, 2021, on behalf of the Carpinteria Warriors. During his brief remarks, Congressman Carbajal also celebrated the 50th anniversary of Title IX legislation barring discrimination in education based on gender. Mental health services. The CUSD mental health team has planned for the district's first depression suicide screening for 7th and 9th grade students over the mid 2 weeks of February in order to create a safety network in our school community so students thinking of suicide are identified early and are kept safe. Additionally, the California Department of Education and San Diego County Office of Education have partnered with LivingWorks to provide free online suicide prevention training for all of our middle and high school teachers, staff, and students. LivingWorks is a 90-minute online training program that equips people with the skills and confidence to recognize and respond when someone is thinking of suicide and helps to keep them safe. The faculty and staff at Carpinteria Middle School and Carpinteria High School will be receiving the LivingWorks START online training for suicide prevention during the months of December, January, and February of this year. And the last item is Measure U. Summerlin School continues to pour concrete for footings and retaining walls. The first steel post has been bolted in place for the lower classrooms. The Summerlin site is now past any soils issues and construction has begun. The CHS administration building continues the lath placement for stucco, and rock is going on the new roof. The last phase of Catalino modernization will begin this summer and continue into summer of 2023. And the main school project is being prepared to go to bid for an LLB contractor with plans to begin work this summer. All projects are challenged with materials delays which impact the schedule of work. And I do want to share an item that I posted on Parent Square today. It is regarding the clarification of Governor Newsom's announcement on lifting of mask mandate, which does not apply to schools. So following Governor Newsom's announcement that the state's indoor mask mandate ends on February 15th for those who are vaccinated, I wanted to send a quick clarification that this news does not apply to school settings, which has been confirmed by Matt Higgs and Dr. Doe Reynoso at Santa Barbara County Public Health. The governor announced by way of Twitter that a statewide indoor mask mandate expires next week for individuals who are vaccinated against COVID-19. The unvaccinated will still have to wear a mask indoors after that mandate ends. But to clarify, the governor's announcement does not apply to school or healthcare settings. Schools must continue to follow the current CDPH mask guidance in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Anybody have any questions on her report? Perfect. We'll move right along then to item E5. This will be another presentation by Diana on our 21-22 Local Control Accountability Plan. This is the mid-year report and supplement to annual update presentation.
Thank you. And this is where I will continue the conversation about the CAS scores. So again, we have the 20, 20, and 21 CAS participation rates. Thanks. That would be the next slide. Thanks. So you can see that we disaggregated the groups, so we have all students, elementary, middle, and high school, and then the state participation rates. Most of the larger districts in the state chose to use their own assessments. Again, the state requires at least 95%. Pre-COVID, we had 97% of our students participate. These are the test scores that I reported in the superintendent's report. And as you can see, when you look at all students comparing the district to the state in English language arts and math, we are below the statewide average. When you look at the disaggregated groups, you'll note that in grade 8, we had more students perform at and above grade level than the state in English language arts. And then for English learners, we had more students in math perform higher than the state. For English language arts, it was economically disadvantaged, and white students performed higher than the state. And then for math, it was economically disadvantaged, students with disabilities, and the white students performed higher than the state. But again, these scores truly are not valid because we had lower participation, as well as we did not have complete 183 full school days last year. Our first goal for this year was to increase student learning with high-quality standards-based instruction that's differentiated for each student. So we were really focused on the disaggregated groups of students to improve their achievement and to close the gap between white students, Hispanic students, between students with disabilities and without disabilities, and our English learners and all students. So you can see we have a baseline of 2019 data, and the 2021 data is in the middle column, mid-year progress, which is really June of 2021, and then our outcome for 23-24. And you can see by the June 2021 data that for the most part, we're going in the wrong direction. With the exception of 8th grade ELA, English learners in 8th grade, and the economically disadvantaged in 8th grade. But the one highlight I'm happy to report is the grade 3 star reading. Our students, the average is 3rd grade 6th month, district-wide. So that is on track. The next slide is in mathematics. And again, it's little or no progress, with the exception of the grade 3 star math, the average of 3.6. The next area particularly focuses on the progress for English learners. And again, our goal is for English learners to score at least a 3 or 4 on the LPAC, and to have a higher reclassification rate and decrease the percentage of long-term English learners. And we're, again, not going in the right direction based on the June 2021 data. The highlight is, however, student grades. 74% of our CMS students earned a 3.0 or higher in the fall semester, and 60% of our CHS students earned a 3.0 or higher. The next page is the requirements of the state to ensure that we implement the state-adopted curriculum and that our curriculum matches the state standards, and that we have a high percentage of teachers who are appropriately credentialed, as well as ensuring that all students have access to all the courses that we offer. And that we're on track with. 100% of our teachers are appropriately assigned and fully credentialed, and 100% of our students have full access and are enrolled in a wide range of courses. The next goal is all students actively engage in learning and participate in a positive school culture in partnership with parents. And this really refers to school climate. And we depend on the California Healthy Kids Survey for our data, and that will be administered in the next month. So I don't have data to report today, but we will be reporting it in June. We do have data on attendance rates and absenteeism and suspension and expulsion. And as you can expect, is that with the pandemic, our average daily attendance is lower. And our chronic absenteeism rate has increased. Our suspension rate has increased, as well as our expulsion rate, but that does represent one student. And then we continue with goal 2, but again, we expect students to report a high level of school connectedness, academic motivation, high expectations, and meaningful participation, and we will collect our data with the Healthy Kids Survey that will be reported. The next goal is all students will graduate from high school, college, and career ready. And this is really focused on our high school students participating in A to G requirements, AP classes, dual enrollment courses, and completing CTE pathway classes. And again, because of the pandemic last year, our data doesn't show an increase from 2020. And we continue with that goal, looking at enrollment in CTE classes, percentage of students who've successfully completed both the AG requirements and a CTE pathway, biliteracy, state seal of biliteracy, which that is the most encouraging data on this page, is that 14.4% of our graduates earned the state seal of biliteracy, which is an increase from 2020. So we're proud of that. And 58% of our students are enrolled in CTE courses, which is an increase from the previous year. And then I will mention where it says the dropout data. It says 2% of high school dropout rate. That's 3 students. Now, that's 3 students too many, but again, we don't expect any student to drop out. And then our last goal is updating, maintaining facilities for all students and staff. We expect that 95% of our students and staff and parents will report that schools are clean and well maintained. We will collect that data on the Healthy Kids Survey. And then with Measure U modernization, we expect that the LISO school will be completed and that we will rebuild Summerlin and build the new CHS administration building, and we're well on our way. So that's good progress.
Great. Thank you, Diana. Do you have
Yes.
any questions on this report? Doesn't look like it. All right. We'll move right along this evening to item E6 is our public comment. Monica, we have some speakers this evening.
Yes, we do. We're going to start with Mr. Jay Hochner. You can start.
Yeah, thank you. Perhaps I should begin by introducing myself to those who don't know me. I am Jay Hochner, and beyond being a parent and a teacher and a taxpayer in carpentry, I'm also the president of the employee union in the district. What that means for those who don't know, including board members who might not know, is that I have the unique responsibility to speak on behalf of the district's labor force, CUSD's employees. In the process, I often have to describe things as they are versus how they ought to be, sharing feedback on matters of workplace conditions, workplace culture, administrative performance, and resource deficiencies. The kinds of items that district employees are understandably uncomfortable sharing on their own, and often conditions neither upper management nor school board members are terribly interested in hearing either. In the structurally and legally protected role of union leadership, that's one of our important responsibilities. And tonight's no different than any other night. Recently, the employee union facilitated surveys on district administrators, upper management and lower management. This evening, we're here to discuss and share the employee surveys associated with Aliso and Summerlin principal Veronica Gallardo. The results of the employee survey on Ms. Gallardo are genuinely concerning. Although the union would routinely bring them to upper management, like our superintendent, we regret that that was not an option this year. As the school board is also well aware, the state of California's Public Employee Relations Board the California agency charged with upholding public employees' labor rights, recently found that CUSD Superintendent Diana Rigby and her administration have been discriminating and retaliating against union leadership. Retaliation up to and including the threat of discipline that could lead to termination. On matters of workplace conditions, the employee union simply does not believe we have a genuine audience with the superintendent. The union is therefore compelled to provide yourselves, our 5, and there's only 5 in town, school board members, the survey on Aliso and Summerlin principal Veronica Gallardo, her performance, and employee feedback on that. Would you like me to bring them to you, or would you like me to leave them with Ms. Thomas?
You can leave it with Ms. Thomas, please.
We will. Ms. Thomas, will you please distribute them to the board afterward?
I will.
Thank you.
All right. Do you have another speaker?
Mr. Schaefer's not here. We do have one for him as well.
Thank you. Do you have another speaker?
Yes. We continue with Monica Solorzano.
Good, I go?
Go.
Good evening. My name is Monica Solorzano, and I'm co-president of Parents for Aliso. I would like to read into the record the communication that PFA shared with Superintendent Rigby and the Carpinteria School Board on February 3rd. The Aliso Elementary School PFA is contacting you to express our deep concerns with some of the behaviors of Principal Veronica Gallardo. PFA has been dedicated to working with and supporting Ms. Gallardo all year, but we have been disappointed with her leadership style towards parents and students, including a lack of transparency, disregard for safety protocols, negation of student voices, discounting our Spanish-speaking families, and avoiding administrative accountability. We have previously contacted her with these specific concerns via email on January 24th and January 26th, and we subsequently requested that she discuss these concerns further in our February PFA meeting. In the case of our email exchanges with her, we have not received helpful responses. In the case of our February PFA meeting, Ms. Gallardo did not show up to address the aforementioned agenda item. These experiences with Ms. Gallardo have led us to take these issues to you and the CUSD board. COVID-related behaviors. On January 24th, the PFA contacted Ms. Gallardo via email to express several concerns that Aliso parents have shared with us. One of these concerns was as follows, quote, "Parents have heard some worrying reports about information that their children allegedly received from you regarding whether COVID is a true health issue. There have also been reports of you allegedly interacting with children indoors without wearing a mask and telling children when they don't need to wear their masks. We are concerned with these actions because we want to make sure our school leadership is modeling safe and responsible behavior for our children." End quote. Ms. Gallardo's response to the PFA on January 24th addressed this issue thusly. Quote, "With regard to the parent concerns you describe in your second paragraph under COVID protocols behaviors, my hope and vision is that when you hear a concern, you bring it to my attention as you have here. Thank you. Please know that administrators at CUSD, faculty, and staff are expected to follow the protocols we have in place. What you have heard is simply untrue. I will continue to lean on all of you to make sure our school thrives in a healthy community where information is shared freely and accurately." End quote. The PFA responded to this item via email on January 26, wherein we wrote, quote, "In your second paragraph, you state that what PFA families have heard from their children regarding some of your behaviors relating to COVID is, quote, simply untrue," unquote. As you can imagine, it is difficult for parents to hear one thing from their children and another from their principal. As a PFA, we have long-standing relationships within the Aliso community of parents and children, and we don't feel it is productive to discount or discredit these concerns, end quote. In her response of January 28th, Ms. Gallardo did not address this issue at all. She also did not attend the February 1st PFA meeting, which included an agenda item to address the concerns that PFA has raised in our emails to her. This is the first PFA meeting she has not attended this year, and she did not inform us that she would not be attending, nor did she follow up to address the agenda item that specifically referenced our communications with her. Thank you.
Next, we have Rebecca Champion.
Let me know when I'm ready. Okay, 2/1/22 incident in fifth grade classroom. An additional incident that has come to PFA's attention is in regards to the actions in a fifth grade classroom on 2/1/22. A parent contacted Ms. Gallardo after hearing that an instructional aide put hands on a disruptive student. While there is no question that the classroom had become chaotic, it is alarming to hear that an aide made physical contact with a student in a way that another student described as resembling choking. Ms. Gallardo's response to the parent's request for information on this incident came in the form of the following Parent Square post, 2/1/22, as quoted. The students were scheduled to attend theater class this afternoon. Unfortunately, the class did not take place as planned. There were a small group of students whose behavior disrupted instruction to a point where instruction could no longer be implemented effectively. Despite the best efforts of the theater teacher, the classroom teacher, and the 2 instructional assistants, the instructional plans for that day could no longer be implemented effectively. As a result, students returned to their classroom. The students whose disruptive behavior caused the cancellation of the remainder of the theater class were separated from the rest of the class for the remainder of the day, end quote. There was no mention of the aide's behavior, and the phrasing of the notice appears to put all the responsibility of the incident on the children rather than the substitute teacher and the aide who are supposed to be keeping the classroom safe and controlled. After receiving requests from parents, Ms. Gallardo held a Zoom session for parents of the fifth grade classroom on 2/2/22. Throughout the session, Ms. Gallardo repeatedly dismissed the version of events that many students had told parents, despite the parents strongly expressed concerns with Ms. Gallardo's refusal to consider the veracity of multiple student accounts. PFA can provide a narrative of the Zoom session based on notes taken by parents in attendance. Lack of outreach to Spanish-speaking parents. Significantly, the majority of Ms. Gallardo's communication to parents, including Parent Square message quoted above, are presented only in English without Spanish translation. As a result, our Spanish-speaking families are not being engaged on these critical issues by our principal. One of the other concerns that the PFA brought up to Ms. Gallardo and the aforementioned email communication and are concerned about the lack of outreach to Liso's Spanish-speaking community. Prior to this outreach, our campus ELAC group had effectively met one time this school year. Technically, 2 meetings had been held, but due to the lack of outreach, 1 meeting did not have any parent participants. Previous principals have made much more of an effort to connect with our Spanish-speaking families, and it is disheartening to hear from these parents that they do not feel like they are included in the Aliso community. These serious examples have led PFA to believe that there is not a culture of transparency or accountability with Aliso principal, Ms. Gallardo.
Next, we have Noah Kim Wasa. I'm sorry, I couldn't. Oh, I'm sorry, Regina Reese. You are so sorry.
Ms. Gallardo has not been responsive to parent concerns over issues ranging from COVID safety to classroom behaviors. Since parents have not been allowed on the Aliso campus for the 21-22 school year, we rely on communications from our teachers and principal to understand how our children are doing in the hours they are in class. PFA does not feel that Ms. Gallardo has been straightforward or honest with Aliso's parents and families, and we are concerned about her leadership at Aliso and the effect it is having on our children. PFA does, however, remain committed to its goal of working with Ms. Gallardo as our principal, and we will continue to share our concerns. In the meantime, we would like to know what CUSD will do in response to the issues raised in this letter. Sincerely, Parents for Aliso. Signed, Monica and Ruari, Regina Reese, Ashley Hernandez, Rebecca Luera, Berlin and Peter Garcia, Natalia Alacon, Dulce Perea, and Neosha. As a PFA, we felt it was critically important to come and read this letter in person to you this evening. We thank you for your time and your thoughtful consideration of our deep concerns. My name is Dr. Regina Reese. I've been on the Aliso PFA for 8 years. I have 3 students in the district, my preschooler in special education sitting in the back. I have a 5th grader in the classroom of concern and a 7th grader at CMS. As the PFA, we assure you, we have approached this delicate and difficult situation with patience. But it appears things are only getting worse. We cannot sit back and ignore these alarming issues. Our principal should be first to follow mandatory mask mandates, not last. This sets a confusing and unsafe example for our children. Our Spanish-speaking families should not have gone more than 6 months without bilingual communication. This is absolutely unacceptable and does not support diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's a first in nearly a decade at Aliso that there was not bilingual communication. A majority of our families have simply been left out of the conversation. The 5th grade classroom, room 14, should not be in such a crisis and chaos that our children describe it as another terrible day every single day we pick them up. They should be inspired to be the future leaders of carpinteria and innovators. Instead, we are letting down the future teachers, superintendents, and school board members sitting in our classroom right now. Thank you for your time.
Now we do have Mr. Noah Kimwasa. Thanks. Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry, real quick, Monica?
Yes.
I'm not sure, but maybe he had turned it in and then corrected it, but I thought I saw him turn that in after the start of the meeting.
I think he got here a little after the meeting started. It's up to you guys.
Well, because we were very clear with Mr. Hotchner
Yeah.
that it had to be in before the start of the meeting, and if we have a standard, I feel like we need to keep it, so I just want to know what we're doing.
It's not up to me, it's up to the board.
I did see you come in late and turn it in, but it was soon after the meeting. If Mr. Hotchner is okay with you speaking this evening, I think we can go ahead and allow it. But just for future reference, prior to the meeting starts, we have to be turned in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hodgins. Thank you, Board, Superintendent. My name is New Kambala, a Summerlin resident, potential future board member from Summerlin. And the reason I'm here is I came here August 24th to speak to you guys regarding some concerns regarding communication, clarification, bilingual website, made some recommendations. I also emailed every board member and the superintendent here August 28th, early in the morning. I know it was a Saturday, but I failed to hear a response from anyone, and it's been almost 5.5 months. So I'm wondering, I don't know, what's the standard of wait time that's acceptable by the board for a response? To be clear, I don't expect a direct response from any board member, probably ever, but I do expect staff that works on behalf of the board to be able to provide community members, including myself, a response in an adequate time. I'm concerned because when I came on the 24th, it was about communications, it was about bilingual communications, it was about transparency, and now that I come back and I hear some of these concerns, even on my follow-up email that I hope all you guys received, because I emailed you from the website email addresses. I talked about concerns about who's supporting the administrators, all of them. I mentioned 2 at the secondary level, and I never got a response on that. So I'm kind of concerned that was back in August 28th, and when we come to a meeting here today in February, and we're still having the same issues without a response. So I'm willing to wait as long as I have to, but I just want to know what's acceptable from this board in terms of a appropriate response time.
Unfortunately, we cannot make comments on non-agendized items
Not a
of the
problem.
meeting.
Then I do want to ask, on an agenda item to the superintendent, she had mentioned about the results from the assessments. I want to know, is there a district-wide pyramid of intervention or remediation plan to support our learners? And I also want to know, are our student grades that are success for the district currently California standards based? Thank you for your time and your attention.
Great, thank you. Okay, any more public comment? Monica?
No.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming in this evening. Okay, we will move along to agenda item F1. This is Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 7211 for developer fees. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
And a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item F2 is Administrative Regulation 1312.3, Uniform Complaint Procedures. This is our first reading. The board is asked to approve the first reading of AR 1312.3, Uniform Complaint Procedures. Carpinteria Unified School District last updated this AR on August 10, 2021, in accordance with the California School Board Association. This year, the district is being reviewed by the State Federal Program Monitoring, and one of the programs being reviewed is the Uniform Complaint Procedure. The state reviewed board policies and administrative regulations and found that AR 1312.3 is missing a section. They have asked us to revise the AR and resubmit for approval. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions on this item?
We do have a public comment on this item.
We do? Okay.
Yes. Mr. J. Hochner?
Absolutely.
You can start.
All righty, thank you. So this issue regards the ability of district employees to file complaints. The union's pleased that the State Federal Program Monitoring Agency has determined that a review of CUSD's practices in regard to its processing of internal complaints in the Human Resource Department and above requires examination. Since the arrival of Superintendent Rigby, the union noticed a degenerating culture of administrative violations associated with CUSD's processing of employee complaints. Both the AR 1312, the AR 1430, and the Uniform Complaint Procedures in general. The mismanagement of the district's internal complaint process has an outsized impact on workplace conditions and the culture across the district. In the past few months, behind the scenes of this much more public venue, union leadership has provided both the superintendent and the school board with several examples of how these district complaints, filed legitimately by concerned district employees, appear to be obstructed and manipulated by the Human Resource Department and higher management. Timelines are not being followed, and serious complaints are being denied. The Human Resource Director clarified the reason most recently, stating that complainants were not reporting their concerns on the appropriate form, failing to identify the appropriate form when requested by the complainants. When employees submit written and signed complaint reports, the district still delays investigation, leaving the legitimate complainants, maybe called whistleblowers, exposed and vulnerable. Instead of calling in witnesses and signatories to these formal district complaints, the Human Resource Director, under the supervision of Superintendent Rigby, has chosen instead to intimidate the complainants. Just last week, after denying the original complaint signed by 8 district employees over 2 months ago, 4 of them have already left the district in protest, she personally visited the complainants to verbally warn them that if they involved the union, the district would call its lawyers directly into their personal interviews. I missed that part in the process. Instead of scrutinizing the conditions being reported in several district complaints, you, our 5 school board trustees, recently sat in a termination hearing and hastily fired an employee based on the unverifiable and officially disputed evidence. The word of the Aliso principal at the center of so much controversy tonight. The only individual making a single allegation, with several witnesses testifying otherwise. What was the rush with that termination? Not only has the union provided you notification and documentation, but we are wondering,
Mr. Hochner, it's time. Time is out.
what role are you playing?
Mr. Hochner?
What
time
role
is
are you
up.
playing in this retaliation?
Mr. Hochner, please.
Okay. We are going to move on to G1. The board is asked to approve the warrants for the period of January 21st, 2022. Oh, sorry.
Vote.
My apologies. Was there any other questions on that item now? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, now on to item G1. The board is asked to approve the warrants for the period of January 21st, 2022 through February 3rd, 2022 in the amount of $475,643.26, with the warrants being issued once a week on Thursdays. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve?
And a
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Item G2A is a donation from Los Centros Summerlin Foundation to the Carpinteria High School CHS in the amount of $15,000. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve with gratitude?
And a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item G2B is a donation from Miss Amy Cranston to the Carpinteria High School in the amount of $500 to the CHS cross-country team. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item G2C is a donation from El Fuego Enterprises to Carpinteria High School in the amount of $300 for the ASB Football Club. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve with gratitude?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item G2D is donation from Lou Panazon to Carpinteria High School in the amount of $300 to the CHS for Letterman jackets. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item G2E is a donation from Carpinteria High School Athletic Booster Club to Carpinteria High School Athletic Club in the amount of $8,000 to CHS ASB Athletic Club. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second?
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Lots of donations tonight. Item G2F is a donation from Carpinteria High School Athletic Boosters Club to the Carpinteria High School basketball team in the amount of $3,387.32 to CHS boys basketball uniforms. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item G2G is a donation from the Carpinteria High School Athletic Boosters Club to Carpinteria High School boys and girls tennis in the amount of $1,382.75 to purchase boys and girls tennis balls. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item G3, the board is asked to review and approve the 2020-21 annual audit in accordance with Education Code 41020.3 by January 31st of each year. The governing body of each local education agency shall review at a public meeting the annual audit of the local education agency for the prior year. Any audit exceptions identified in that audit, recommendation or findings of any management letter issued by the audit, and any description of correction or plans to correct any exceptions or management letter issue. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, the submission of the annual audit has been extended. There are no financial audit findings. However, there's one audit finding in 2021, which is explained on page 81 for the district corrective response on page 82, and there are no fiscal implications to this finding. I'll ask for a motion to approve. Sorry, motion to approve.
I move to approve.
And a second?
Second.
All right, was there any questions on this item?
So just to clarify, so with the ESSER funds that we received, we had to offer it to private schools?
So
That's how it sounds.
yes, so a lot of the audit guidelines for all the COVID money coming from the federal government came out about 2 weeks before they had to come out and do the audit. So these were not known until much later in the game, and they didn't get included in the Title I notices we typically send. So there's no monetary implications, and we are now aware that all of the federal monies that are coming in new, we need to read carefully to see which are required to go to public schools just for participation or not.
Wait, private schools you mean?
Yes, private schools.
Okay. So the private schools as in like we have to send students out to a private school
No,
for whatever
no.
reason or what?
Private schools that reside in our school district.
Okay.
We send annually notices for Title I, II, III, and IV for participation in those programs.
Okay.
And then we have to give share of cost. So they've not historically participated in those programs. But I did not realize that the ESSER and the GER money had to be included in that letter.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Item H1 is approval of Robert Robles Architecture Incorporated. This is the final fee reconciliation for elementary school campus modernization at Aliso. We did discuss this at the last meeting, so I'm first open up with a motion to approve.
Well, first, Maureen has a presentation.
Okay.
Two mouses, I'm like, in between.
So at the prior board meeting, there were some questions related to this authorization. And I wanted to give some context to this and kind of go over the reconciliation. But there was so there's a master agreement that was approved in 2015 for architectural services. And that agreement was a big document, but it was a textbook blanket architectural agreement that had lots of different conditions and a lot of different payment methods built within that master agreement. There was also an addendum that was approved to the master agreement that called out project-specific, cost-specific architectural services. For some of our projects, through our other architect, KBZ, the master agreement applied. With Robert Robles Architect, the addendum agreement was applied with project-specific costs. So they were not necessarily treated equally. For Robert Robles, starting with the 2019 Aliso Phase 1 project, that was a bid project. So that was a fixed amount that didn't go through lease-leaseback. It was subsequent to that, everything did go through lease-leaseback. So in April of 20, the guaranteed maximum price for Phase 2 and 3 to complete Aliso was 5.5, for a total estimated project of $7.2 million. There were some change orders that came to the board. They were all board approved with a net reduction in construction as we took the kitchen out since we went to the central kitchen model of 7.1 for final costs of construction. So the schedule you see is the DSA architect schedule of fees, and it's percentage on dollars, and it calculates to $731.52. The original architect agreement, that addendum agreement that was approved by the board in 2017, 5 years ago, was for the total project that was a completely different scope that we ended up doing and phasing. So what is happening moving forward is if that happens, then the architectural agreement will be amended every time. Although I will, moving forward on the future projects, we have Catalino, we have Maine, those will be treated as KBZ's agreement is treated, with payment at scope as it's going along. So construction as it's moving along. So we don't have a 2, 3, 3-year span with no fees paid. It's kind of shocking that he didn't get paid for the last 2 years. But the reconciliation does actually owe the money. The agreement probably should have been amended or updated, especially in 2020 when we brought the final phases of Aliso forward for that amount over what his contract was. But nonetheless, the agreement is quoted in this on Article 10, let me scroll down, that upon completion, only upon completion of the project is he paid out for the entire project construction cost. So that's where we are.
Okay, great. Thanks for bringing that to us and clarifying. Before we have a discussion, I'm going to go ahead and get approval for this item.
I move to approve this item.
Second?
All right. Any questions for Maureen on more clarification? Or I believe we have, Mr. Robles with us if we have any questions. Yes.
We do have a public comment on this item.
Oh, okay, great.
Mr. J. Hochner?
Please let me know when I can begin. Thank you. Well, once again, it's disappointing that Board Member Schaefer is not here this evening, especially for this specific issue. After required notice was provided to the public at the recent January 25th meeting, union leadership was not surprised when we received many inquiries on the topic of yet another costly area of fiscal mismanagement, that being the Measure U fund and related expenditures, overruns, and changes to the original plan. Setting aside the finger-pointing exercise engaged in by district leadership on January 25th, the last board meeting, union leadership was also concerned and surprised when the superintendent and assistant superintendent notified our school board members, CUSD's fiscal stewards, that over $300,000 were not budgeted in either Measure U budget or the master budget. More specifically, this error accounts for an unbudgeted increase of $311,000+ paid for out of Measure U bonds. But what does that mean? That means paid for by the taxpayers of this community that money was collected from, residents and property owners of Carpinteria. What previously budgeted priorities will the CUSD have to displace to secure these unbudgeted dollars? Will it displace future cost of living adjustments for district employees who fall further behind the cost of living regionally? Will it displace or be clawing back money from the pay increases in the last year given to our district administrators who are responsible for this very detail? Will the school board try once again to claim that it must slash healthcare benefits during a time of global pandemic? Will these funds come from our student programs or out of resources critical to the routine maintenance of the teaching and learning environment? Or will these overruns and unbudgeted costs come from the cancellation of future Measure U projects previously promised to the community of Carpinteria? Where does the money come from? $300,000+. In the words of Board Member Jamie Dimon, we need to reconsider how we do this going forward. To say the least, cause leadership agrees, and we remain very concerned about the performance of those aforementioned fiscal stewards. We remind district students, employees, families, and stakeholders of the importance of proactive oversight of the CUSD school board and leadership, especially when attempting to prevent the loss of significant taxpayer dollars due to similar unilateral, arbitrary, and opaque decision-making. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, board, was there any other questions on this item?
No questions. I just want to say, in no way did I mean, if it came off this way, to cast aspersions on you, Mr. Robles. Your work has been amazing, and I can't believe that you carried this non-payment for so long. So thank you, and this shouldn't have happened in the first place. It wasn't fair to you, and it wasn't fair to either party, really. So I just want to put that out there. Thank you very much for all the work that you did, really. And I believe I heard Board Member Schaefer has a comment?
Not at this
No.
time,
Oh, okay. I thought I heard there was something. Okay. Yeah, it's just frustrating.
Maureen, can you just clarify that the money is there because of Measure U and how that?
The money is allocated in the project allocation.
Right.
It just wasn't in a budget item on our technical sheets.
Right.
So it is earmarked already for the ELISO project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. All those in favor of approving agenda item H1?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Okay, on to item H2, approval of change order number 2 at the CHS Admin Student Services Building with McGillivray Construction. This project requires change order number 2 for items 3 through 9, which includes provisions and installation of an alternate isolate 2200 watt lighting, a change to a 6-inch curb to an 8-inch curb, modification of a storefront 2 to include new window and modification of door number 1, shift door framing at curative record storage room, backing at copy room, Schluter trim changes and stretched wall fabric, added bulletin board, added tack board and key storage box, provide and install manual roller shades at ASB Athletics pass-through window. Change order number 2 is in the amount of $75,525.17, which will bring the contract sum to $3,384,303.56, all to be paid with Measure U funds. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve?
And a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Just the question, the difference on the curb and things like that, is that all stuff that we, like, for it to be to code, or was that design wants? Is that a design thing, or like
yeah.
by code, it has to be that?
The curb was a code change. Most of the modifications in this change order are basically owner initiated because they were not, the plans were not reviewed by Principal Cornejo. And so there were lots of modifications that we had to make. There was no opening window in the conference room. There was a single door instead of a double door going into the administration. I mean, there were a lot of things that weren't considered. For instance, the space between two desks couldn't even get a push cart. So, I mean, there was some redesign that had to take place, and that is the majority of this. The actual curbs, that is, and even the isolate lighting are a small part of this amount of money. Most of it were design changes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for being so thorough on all the descriptions of what goes into that. It's good to know more than just, one thing. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Item H3 is the approval of change order number 1 for Summerlin Elementary School with McGillivray Construction. This project requires change order number 1 for items 1 through 4, which includes removal and hauling of unforeseen underground concrete, removal of unforeseen asbestos containing floor tile found under the existing building, waterproofing the south wall of the classroom building, and a solution to create a stable, dry condition for the footing of the southwest corner of the classroom building. Change order number 1 is in the amount of $42,461.47, which will bring the contract sum to $5,676,757.47. All paid with Measure U funding. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve?
And a second?
Second.
Any questions? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Item H4 is approval of McGillivray Construction Incorporated pre-construction services and modernization for Catalino and Main School. Let's see, the board is asked to approve McGillivray Construction as a leaseback contractor for the Catalino Elementary School and Main School modernization for pre-construction services not to exceed $15,000. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve?
Second?
Yep. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item I1 is our personnel summary. We have 3 assignments, 5 resignations, 2 unpaid leave of absences, and 23 spring coaching assignments. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve?
Second.
It's exciting to see spring sports. All right, any questions?
Board President, we have a public comment.
Oh, great.
Mr. J. Hochner?
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Union leadership is compelled to clarify the numbers contained in the current personnel summary. In a time when a district's ability to maintain highly qualified and competent employees is so very critical, the CUSD is experiencing the acute damage associated with the current toxic workplace culture and administrative culture violation. In just this personnel summary alone from this meeting, which reflects only the last 2 weeks of the district's operations associated with the Human Resource Department, directed by Human Resource Director Zapata and overseen by Superintendent Rigby, the district was required to document the resignation of 5 more district employees, or district positions, 4 employees, 5 positions, and 2 employees seeking a leave of absence for the upcoming school year. This follows the resignation of 5 others from the district, 5 other individuals from the district, which was documented in the 2 weeks preceding the January 25th, the last board meeting. Union leadership would encourage the CUSD school board to examine the motivations offered by this rapidly growing body of district resignees. But that would be difficult, even after the union has promoted and encouraged the CUSD to provide exiting employees an opportunity to share their motivations in confidence through an exit interview. District leadership, the HR department, and the superintendent have failed to pursue this common practice, a practice designed to better inform the district on working conditions across itself, across the system. Beyond the indicator of workplace conditions that such a high volume of resignations provides, union leadership wants to remind district leadership of the fiscal inefficiencies and performance challenges associated with such a high level of employee turnover and transiency, increased training costs, increased disruption in the teaching and learning environment, the loss of previously recognized talent that we hired, recognizing their talent, fleeing from our district to other surrounding districts, the increased pressure associated with an already inadequate substitute coverage program, the growing reputation of Carpinteria under Superintendent Rigby of being a generally unpleasant and unstable place to work, let alone a last stop for those who are interested in providing a career of professional service. It's time to connect the dots, school board. They are and have been clearly right in front of you throughout the last many months, if and when you are prepared to intervene. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor of the personnel summary?
Aye.
Okay, we're right on to board announcements. Anything to share this evening? All right, I think we're all good. Board calendar, we do have a meeting next week, correct, Monica?
Yes, we have the special board meeting closed session only at 5:30 at the district office, expulsion hearing.
At the district office. Okay. All right, thank you. Our meeting is adjourned.